One of the interesting things you speculate about the Gospel of Matthew is to speculate on the role of Matthew in writing his Gospel, in particular, his background. We know that he was a tax collector before following Jesus. So there is reason to believe that Matthew would have learned to be a record keeper, somebody who recorded details. So there is some, you know, it'd be kind of fun to speculate that Matthew possibly came into this project of writing the Gospel of Matthew with a history of recording details or remembering facts. You don't have to necessarily write things down to remember things or be one that can record things and put them aside for future use. Matthew chapter 14 and verses 22 to 23. And this is reading from what is considered the English as an England translation, the New English Bible. Verse 22 says this: Then he made the disciples embark and go on ahead to the other side, while he sent the people away. After doing that, he went up the hillside to pray alone. Imagine that you have come home from working a double shift at the plant because there are a backload of orders. Or it might be that you are a nurse and you have just completed an absolutely brutal 12-hour shift when everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And in the midst of all of this, you had your boss being an absolute and total idiot. You can't get home. What would you do? If the energy is there, maybe a shower. Then maybe you go to the fridge or cupboard and find something easy and convenient to eat. Then it is off to your favorite chair in the living room, the nice, plush, comfy recliner. You push back, you push up your feet, and then you flip on the television and proceed to just veg for the final hours of your waking day. We would not begrudge somebody who fought and approached their time after work if they went through this type of day. Jesus had just finished a long day of ministry. Jesus had just prepared far more meals than probably you and I would do in maybe half a decade, maybe a decade. That might be pushing it. He sends his disciples on ahead of him by way of boat to the other side of the lake. Jesus then finishes dealing with the crowd and sends them off. If you've ever had young children, you know how that moment feels. You know what it feels like, that moment. There's a hush, there's a quiet. You can actually think for yourself. They are now in bed and asleep. The chaos and demands of the day are over. You can almost hear yourself think, Jesus does not take that moment to go find the nearest recliner and put his feet up. Jesus now turns to prayer. Jesus uses that precious time of freedom and quiet to spend with his heavenly Father. If you live life, you know how hard it is to carve out time for God. Look at Jesus in this passage. He was only able to give to God time at the end of a busy day. Jesus would have loved to spend time in prayer during the day, but the demands would not allow it. The reality is that if you drive a transit bus for a living, you cannot walk away from the bus in the middle of your shift and say, hey, excuse me, I'm going to go spend some time in prayer. If you have a toddler or two at home, you cannot just leave them alone for a couple of hours to spend time in prayer. And if you have a toddler or two, you know they're probably not going to leave you alone for 5 or 10 minutes, never mind 2 hours. Why did Jesus go and pray? Jesus knew the importance of it. Jesus knew that as important as all that he did that day, it was not the most important thing. The curse of a hectic schedule is that which is important can take the place of that which is necessary. If Jesus made time for prayer, what does that say about me? And what does that say about you? The great mystery about Jesus' life is what Jesus did before he began his ministry. Luke tells us Jesus was about 30 when he began his ministry. Chapter 3 and verse 23 of Luke. We know that his dad was a carpenter. Matthew 13:54. It can be inferred that Jesus followed in his father's footsteps. Jesus must have established the disciplines that we see later in his life when he was in his carpentry business. Jesus did not just step out in public ministry and go, hey, I need to pray, and then pray. Jesus learned early on in the midst of his hectic and busy life. Well, he was a carpenter, doing cabinets, maybe house framing, you know, preparing logs into timber. Jesus learned early on the need to spend time with his Father. To spend time in prayer is difficult. Life does not want it or allow it. Yet, if we can commit to it, in time it can become second nature. You see, that's what we see in Jesus. Prayer to him became second nature. And if Jesus needed to spend time in prayer, what does that tell you of me and of you?